As you can see, I have my armor on. I don't have my little speaker box thing, so gotta find that. It's probably just hiding. It's dark. It's dark. No, I did talk to my boss yesterday. Now I saw something. I saw something, and I think that I was supposed to see it. And part of it, I know it's very important to relay it back because we're not doing this just for ourselves. There's a lot of intricacies woven into life, but an important thing to know is that there are things that are manipulating us as humans, all different types of ways. If you want to do something in your life or you want to have a relationship, you don't want it tampered with. You don't, because you don't know what's coming from that person or if it's something else. That's why the process of individuation is so important, because if you didn't know the person that you were interacting with, if some sort of other pressures put on them, the government, their family, something like that, and they were interacting with you and they were being pressured by like the family, the family doesn't like you, so now your girl that loves you to death is telling you goodbye forever. You know, you wouldn't be able to know that that person loves you and that they're not able to do that because you didn't know them. If they can't individuate and act through their own will without some manipulation, and it doesn't have to be your family. There's these weird things that are fucking with us that we're not able to perceive. And, in the recent history, we've been pulling it up and all talking about it. People are discussing aliens and different shit like that. And to some degree, aliens could be part of that too. But I saw the reptiles. I fucking saw them. And I've been going in my life as a Christian since I was young. And I have been a Christian. Now, my relationship to Christ is personal. It is. What I think that the Christ individual did, even if that's not a being or not, did something for me. And I swear, before this had gone down, or whatever that I had going on, because I had a horrible experience and it fucked me up a little bit because of seeing it. And just the lack of sense that it made. It would make no other sense except by the conclusion I have drawn and seen that and seen it. And I know in my own personal life that, I'm trying to make certain choices to advance myself certain ways, as one does. And there's things that I don't want in my life, and how they can be placed back there in certain ways that I know is some manipulation by these things. And I seen it. I seen them doing it. I seen how they were operating. And it fit like a textbook what I had learned over a long period of time, you know? So to bring it back and reel it in, because it wasn't like a fever dream, you know, I saw it. I didn't physically see the beings, but I could see they're manipulating. I hear my speaker now. Turn it off. What the fuck? It turns off now. See, why would it even be on and not connected and then just now turn off? That's what I'm saying. There's weird stuff like that that's going on, and these things are manipulating technology too. That's a fucking fact. That is a fact. And it didn't make sense what was going on with it until I was able to pull enough of it up. It's like, imagine if you have a bunch of like blocks of ice tied up, somehow anchored into. Imagine them like there's the giant chunks of ice, and they've got like metal chain that's between them all, but it's really heavy. And if you're trying to pull that up, or rocks, but it's floating on the top, to pull it up out of that water to see how it's connected, but then it just pulls it back down. That's kind of like the subconscious. Because although you can pull some of it up and see it, make sense of it to some degree, that's all that you really get out of substances. And there's meditative practices that allow this too. So, like, I'm not saying that you have to. I don't think anyone needs drugs, but I think it is an important journey in life to be able to discover perception and reality and different things like that by the ability to have the right to use and find out. You know, of course, there's going to be drunk drivers that plow and kill people. You can't really put that on the substances. People have to learn how to do things their own way, you know? So I'm not really against that at all. I see the problems that arise, but if you have society, you have people with problems like ability to fucking interact, ability to like, walk in a straight line, they're going to be magnified when you add these other elements, of course. But we've never had a society that, until now, that was like, this is illegal, you're going to jail. And think about all the jail and prison people get put into behind money. That's the ultimate goal of prisons, is to be getting federal money for putting people away, for doing things. And they we know that they don't do it justly all the time. You got people that are spending many years in jail over something small that someone else can do and not even get in trouble. What's fair about that? I don't think you should defund the police. Maybe defund some prisons. And I think a lot more people that do really horrible crimes should have the death penalty, and we should do it immediately. Real talk. It may not sound like it's the most humane thing to do. I understand that. But in terms of humans and the development that we need to go forward, it is humane because when you have like someone who's abusing someone, that cycle continues. A lot of times, homosexuals, I'm not saying all homosexuals, but somehow the men that do homosexual stuff were abused. And then they end up abusing someone else, doing the same stuff to some young boy. You know, it's not really too natural for two men to want to do it. It's not. It's just not. You know, I'm sure in nature it does arise because you got animals that are fucking queers, queer ass animals. But that's not the focus of the topic. I'm not really concerned with that. But I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it and I'm drawing conclusions and I'm looking at our society of how things have advanced and drawing some conclusions. You know, it's like with the kids that are trans. When you have a teacher who's, you know, putting it forward, it's really likely that a kid might get ideas like that because their teacher's into it, you know? And we see that. You know, if there was a child that was like really young and they really did feel like they were trapped in the wrong body and stuff like that, it's not a bad thing that someone notices that and helps that child along their way. But most of the times after puberty, but I'm bringing this message back because I did see it. It's all tied in. It is all tied in because this has been going on for a long time. I don't abuse people. I stick to myself. My relationship status is I'm alone, by myself. I pay my bills that I have, except for my phone bill, because Cash App has locked my damn money into it, and they're taking this stretched ass time to verify my address. And I can call them, and they can't just do it. They've got two special people that are going to a special room, read my email, and then they'll verify if I live here or not. It sounds very suspect, to be honest. I told the last guy that. I was like, "Are you serious?" I was like, "Because now it sounds like you're fucking about to do something to me. Something's about to happen. This does not sound like a verification process. It shouldn't be this way. It's been since Friday they've had my money locked. Can't move it, and I needed to pay the fucking phone bill with that money. You know, but let me tell you something. When my phone, for whatever reason the other day, somehow got into safe mode and I could use none of the apps at all that weren't the ones that are the main ones on the phone, like phone. You could use the phone, you could message. I could watch YouTube because it's on the bottom four of the apps already. But I had placed it there. It's not like that on initially on the phone. Maybe it wouldn't have let me watch it. I don't know. But most of the apps that you install later on after you have your phone, all that's off. And I thought the memory card wasn't connecting and took the thing out, slid it back in so many times, you know, and I was supposed to turn the phone off and then reboot it, which was like hold the power and press volume up and could turn on. It would go to the bootloader where if you press the volume up, it will scroll through, and the minute you press the volume down, it would reboot the phone. And it had to be on the right selection. I did that 2 or 3 times, and it finally took safe mode off. There's another period of time, and it corresponds with that because that was like a week ago. Now, when the phone got that way, I recognized at that moment that I was the master of the universe, that I played just as much role in this manifestation principle as anyone else, that there is a consensus reality, and that consensus reality is built upon units of peoples, of which this group that I'm working with is one of them, and I knew how that interconnected. I knew all that, and I just chillaxed. I didn't stress on the phone. I was pissed off, but I conducted my business that I needed to do. I didn't get sidetracked. And in that not getting sidetracked, doing something else, compounded that focus to even now. And it was that focus that I needed to see these fucking things, to be able to recognize that these people that I knew and interacted with almost every day, all these days, had something also manipulating them. And when it occurred, it may not occur all the time. These things might be real slick. They might never show up for them in a way that they see it. But if those things are interacting with you, if they're getting something from you, like the loosh, you can bet your ass they're not letting any of those aliens come around you because they consider you theirs. So there's a greater manipulation going on. I could see that. I see it now. And that's not tenable. It's not. Because that would hamper your experience of what you're supposed to be able to have, do, and all that. Right or wrong? Well, what I'm telling you is right. It's not subjective, it's not objective. It is. That's the way it would be. If that's the way it is, I believe in the reptiles. I believe that they exist. I don't know so much if they living among it. I don't know any of that. But I know as actual beings, wherever they are with their physical bodies, They are psychic as fuck. They are psychic as fuck. And it's a different type of psychic. They put a lot of their energy into being that type of psychic, and it costs them some of the psychic that you need to do, like remote viewing and dreaming, lucid dreaming. They can't do that. And over time, it messed their DNA up so that they do have a serious problem. And to correct it, they have to use us. You hear this about a lot of different alien species. The Pleiadians, it's the same way. They did something in the past. There's something in the past about they had one of their matriarchs, or one of the women that is critical in the, like we have Eve, so we're all supposedly related to Eve. Like this is something like that. One of the females in their line that they're all descended from had gotten very damaged in a spaceship crash or something like that. I don't know. Now I'm just giving you this as an example of how this problem could perpetrate or propagate in the bloodline. The lady got damaged and was she used, maybe she had a med bed, I don't know, but it was the ship's recording of her DNA resynthesizing or doing something with it that messed it up. And why you don't manipulate your DNA, it's clearly you could mess something up. Humans at this time aren't smart enough to be fucking with DNA. Junk DNA? Come on. They don't even know what that means. The junk DNA is not junk DNA. The DNA braids upon itself, and those are like, that DNA becomes spacers for the cog position to be correctly, for it to unroll and roll when it records it, and it, it does that. I don't know the word for it, but it does it. It takes the whole damn thing, matches it up, and then the new one it bundles back in. So you're dealing with a braiding process that's going on. That's a very small scale. And we know that DNA is an antenna. We learned this. If you do watch the Dan Winter stuff, there's a lot of fascinating things that science hasn't brought it mainstream yet, but a lot of the mysteries that people in science are still trying to find out, like gravity, has been figured out. How our atmosphere will stay on the surface of the earth is not just a given. There was work in the past done to anchor the atmosphere so we could have proper weather. The miracle of earth isn't just the position of us from the sun. There's a lot more things involved in that. So in all things, you can't really expect your brutal human to know initially things that they will find out in time. All the little details matter. And if you're going to fuck with something and cut out all that stuff, you might be cutting off your arm, to say it in a way that could be quick. But the machines mess that up. And the fact that you can't have machines doing human things should be noticed, because humans have emotions. And what are the emotions? What are your emotions? From a magic and a power standpoint, you recognize that all your power comes from your emotions. Your emotions can mess you up if you don't have some sort of handle on them, and that you need to get that handle, and you need to start early on being able to manage that, and you need to know when they're being manipulated, and you need to know not how to manipulate others if you're not going to be that person. I don't want to manipulate other people's emotions. I have no interest in doing that. You know, I've been in love and I've seen where that could be a problem. You know, you do know. I know that you know. I wouldn't be talking to you and telling you this if you didn't have the wherewithal to understand that I'm coming from somewhere real. Sure, there's a weird element to it. I understand that. But I've long wondered what was the role of these beings if I can't communicate with anything. You know, if I talk to the aliens, if they don't talk to me, if I ask to talk to them, then what role do they play in my life? How am I supposed to move forward in respect to that? You know, because I don't want to just be like, fuck them. I don't feel that way, honestly. I might have when I was younger or whatever, but I want to get to where I know myself and I stay clear. I don't want to be manipulated by, I don't want to be a drunk that's just always drunk. I don't have to have substances to wake up every day, to make it to work. I don't have that caveat on my life. I don't live that way. I have, but I don't want to. It's not the way. It's not. The role that things have played in my life that are not so good, for me, I needed to find the better ways to do things. And that's obvious to anyone that's done anything. That's the way life is. But now, in regards to these things, they wanted me in a state that I had already chosen of my own free will to not wish to be in. And they continued to press it forward because it was an important part of their plans they wanted to have go down. Because these things they do, they get you in a certain state, and then they're eating off of your aura at the extremity, the loosh, because it just lightnings through you, and now it's being powered up by the state that you're in. And I seen it. I seen it happening. I seen it that they needed it to be that way for them to process the food or energy component of it. That's the way they needed it. And I've heard some of these stories too about us doing the same thing with animals. Like they were having some child eat something and then peed out the drug. I was hearing this in the Greek translations from the Satanic Greek professor, Greek language guy, Dr. Alman Hill, who's very bright and brilliant. With minusing hearing the Hail Satan, I can't go any further than that. I'm not Hail Satan. I don't want anything to do with that. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. That's fine. But it darkens my learning moment. If I'm trying to discover something I didn't know. And if there are things that the Greek text says regarding things that are fundamental to my religion, I want to know it. I want to know what they say. I'd rather be able to know than have someone tell me, well, I'm the authority and this is how it is. This is just how it is. Because I don't buy it. I don't buy that. I think other things were going on. I don't even think we have a clear story. And I can conclude now that whether or not Jesus Christ was an actual living person and any of that bears with his life has been settled for me. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. That's not important. Because Christ, although he was a messenger, he's not the only Son of God, and all that jazz has been church manipulating and retelling the story to sort of they needed a more sun god out of Jesus. And I understand that now. And I see why that's necessary or why they did it. I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying I'm well aware of the manipulation and the Council of Nicene of the Bible. And a lot of people want to say, oh, it's just bullshit. You know, And you can do that. You can take it all out. You can dismiss the whole thing. Cliff High likes to dismiss the whole thing, but religion hasn't played a role in his life in the same way. I I I took to heart certain things, and they helped me grow. And I know that there's other things in there that may not match up, and they seem to cancel each other out. Some uh, oxymoronic shit. Kill no one, but kill your enemies type shit. That's a small example, but I'm not. What I'm saying is, you can find that the mind that is prepared to divide against everything is a different mind. You know, so for Cliff High, it's great. He doesn't need to use it. He can dismiss it. And I had a big problem with if Yahweh was a colonel in the L's army, whatever the hell that was, and his cattle are these people, the Jews per se, just to say that the Law of One book suggests that at the time of the Exodus, the Ark of the Covenant was in the pyramid, and they stole it and went out of there. And that during these contact meetings, at some point in time, the contact got hacked by a negative entity. The Tetragrammaton, the Yahweh, is an Orion Crusader that has hacked the contact, and you can see that. And I think it is a negative being. Obviously, you can like read some of the "Thus says the Lord" stuff, and that's not a fucking positive being at all. So I've moved past the if it's God or not. I know that these beings are not God, but I still believe in God. I still believe in God, and I still communicate with God. God plays a role in my life. After I did all this research and all this stuff, God told me, look, we need to do some healing on your antenna because, and it showed me my antenna like a metal wire cross, and it was all warped and fucked up. And it was saying, like, to get these discoveries, and I told you to study. And that's the word I heard when I prayed to God. Study. And I studied for years. And this is when I started finding all this stuff out, all this truther stuff. And it fucked my antenna up a little bit. It wasn't a perfect cross anymore, you know, because of the manipulation and the things that I saw, and where I just couldn't believe certain things anymore. It just wasn't true. Um, that being came back to me and said, "Look," and it showed me the cross all warped. Like, this is your connector. You've prayed your whole life. This is what you've used to focus on. It helps you connect. Helps us connect. But we're not going to be able to connect because this thing is messed up. And if we want to continue to connect, we need to fix it. And told me to put it back right in its proper format, however I chose it to be, and then we would go from there. And I just put the cross right back. I put the cross right back straight, pulled the kinks out, straightened it up, made a proper antenna, and carried about my business. And the day that I did that, I talked to my ex and I let her know. And when I texted her, she immediately called me back. So that was one of those times where the synchronicities lined up properly and correct. Just like another one, whenever I know that before we were born, we had this contract that I would be here with my dad at this time. And she had already knew that, and I knew that. And I don't experience any memories of before I was born. I don't have any, but I believe that I have an existence before this life, as many of you do. So that troubled me. And this situation and state that my family ends up being in troubles me, and I didn't understand it, and I cried out to God and was taken and shown us on the steps of the dam where they have the Akashic records. People are going in and out. The being of Jesus showed me. He's like, look, you see over there? And it was me and her. And how we were even positioned together standing was the answer, was answering questions. And I got verified of that. And I was told because I had, you know, cried out to God and had done this work and gone through this horrible relationship shit, not understanding why it had to be this way or why it was. And it's very painful because you love someone and then they vanish. You don't know what's going on with them. And you don't get to participate with your children. And if you try to use any of the mechanisms that the system affords you, they end up just uh, they get rated by the damn CPS, and everyone hates you. You know, and that may not have been your purpose goal. You might just been trying to reconnect your own proper connection that you should have to your children. You should be able to communicate with them, especially if you pay child support. They're supposed to have an ability to contact their father, and their father should be able to contact them, whether or not they want to talk to that guy or not. There should be at least an ability to have a phone call. You want to talk? How you doing? Okay, I'm just checking on you, just saying I love you. Right or wrong, you know that that's right. That's not a bad thing, and it's not an oppressive infringing on anyone's rights. If they have the right, they don't want to have anything to do with me. They can. They have that right. They can have that right. I can be a piece of shit and not worth anything. Of course, I don't believe that. But if that's what they need to grow and get to the period their mother takes them through, then so be it. You know, because I also know that it was part of the plan that I wanted her to be able to have those kids because of what happened with her mom and for that not to repeat. And I don't think that it will. I think she stopped a cycle from repeating, and I think I stopped a bad cycle from repeating with my dad. I'm his only son, and I was here to help bury him, and I did. And I loved him, and I see that his view and ideas of me before as just being his son nowhere matched where they ended up being. I wouldn't even think that guy could really say he loved me from where it looked like he was at with his writings, and I've read all his writings. You know, people change. People aren't aware of one another sometimes because of life. There's so much manipulation that's gone on without any, like, there's no management, you know? If we like to think that there's a God and there's this and that and the other, and we don't have our shit straight on what the beings are, then you don't think that affects your praying for someone? It does. It does. There are reptilians. They have physical forms. They live somewhere. Maybe some are underground. And you wouldn't want to live in a world where they're above ground, walking around and doing business. You wouldn't want to live in that world. No, sir. Not all reptilians are bad, of course, but in general, we are food for them. They don't care about us. They don't care about our families. They don't care about anything we're doing. And they'll stomp it out. Because, like cattle and our pets, well, not our pets, but if cattle started sermoning on the mount, the rancher might get alarmed. You know, hey, that's my cattle, man. That's my beef. I'm a goddamn beef over there, fucking sermon on the mount, man. Talking about fucking thou shalt not. The fuck, man. He might have a problem with that because the beef will be having a destiny of its own, and it may not be wanting to be a hamburger anymore. So you can see that there could be some conflicts arise. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't have to be hamburgers. I have seen the glorious new dawn. I have been a chicken nugget once. I tell that story again. So I'm gonna tell it again. I'd found it very difficult to connect with anyone. All my circle of people that I interact with, everyone had their own partner and was paired up. There's no singles no more. And I really wanted to have access to a relationship, and I couldn't. I kept seeing the wall, the goal get stretched away at a certain period of time, and I felt like I was being isolated and made into something, being loosed. Because if you're wanting a relationship with someone, you want to have that connection and all the things involved. You either get it, you cut it out, you don't have that desire in your life. Some people do that, but I wanted it. I wanted to have access to it, and I believed it was my right to manifest a reality like that, and it was being manipulated. So I prayed. I didn't get immediately an answer back, but when I did, I could see this angel taking me out of somewhere. He's like, "You're right. You're right. You're bubbled off. You're like separated. You're in a different pocket universe that appears to be the one you're from, but it's not. And they're harvesting you, harvesting me." Next thing I knew, I was in a fucking gladiatorial battle with something, and it's hitting me. And like everyone in the stands is cheering for this guy. I can't even see it. It's hitting me. They're booing and doing all this stuff. I'm trying to fight it. You know. Now, when it hit me, it wasn't pain. It was emotional pain. It was sorrow. It was anguish, and it was weird. But I got my bearings to where I could get where it was coming from, and I was fighting back. And at that time, whatever reason, I turned into a chicken nugget. I'll go to the chicken nugget now. I know the chicken nugget's on here. It will help illustrate the point. See, I see that my phone's not having problems with connecting now. It doesn't have a problem now. I see you don't have a problem now. I hope the audio's up on this great. I'm a chicken nugget. And the being tells me, "How dare you fight back? You're not even you have no will, you have no autonomy, you have no agency. You are just food stuff." And like they were like booing me on. Now, what they didn't understand was as a young man, I had eaten so many chicken nuggets and I loved them. Even now, when I don't even eat at McDonald's because I don't trust the meat, I don't trust you, McDonald's. I don't know what the fuck you're doing, McDonald's. But if someone still offered me a chicken nugget, I would still eat you, son of a bitch. A little bit of barbecue sauce, dip that shit in there. This was a pivotal role in my childhood. I love these sons of bitches. I loved them. This crunked me up. As the chicken nugget, I beat that thing's ass and was out of there with my angel as soon as possible. I don't know why the gladiatorial battle was after how that happened. It would seem like during a rescue, if you were rescuing somebody out of a concentration camp, I don't think the Nazis would be able to stage a fight between the guards and the Jew that's all emaciated from being eaten at that time. I don't think they would probably allow that. They'd probably be like, shut it down. So the angel did tell me, though, it's like, look, They know the rules. They're breaking the rules, but they're going to do it anyway. They have to because their DNA is fucked up and they're getting other stuff off of humans. So they're already doing this outlaw shit. That's why we're looking out and shutting it down wherever we find it because it's illegal. And I was out of there. Now I'm back into that place again. I'm back into that place again. And he said, look out. They're going to try this again. It's just a matter of time. All the things are similarly lined up. I'm experiencing the same things. And it's like a compound focus. It lets me see something about the little details I couldn't see before without it, without knowing. So pay attention. And when something's not right, make sure you make a note of it. Don't stop every damn thing in the world if you don't have to. But it's important to find out the nuance. It's very important. It's important to know who you are, what you're trying to do, and if you can do it, if it's being manipulated, if it's available or not. Because if you can't have the fullness of your life, it's wasted. Number one, if you're kept from having your love and you are in love, that ain't right. All right. We learned this early on from like Romeo and Juliet shit. And that's just an example. I'm not saying anything set in stone, but I'm saying it's important to have all your experiences that you needed to have, right or wrong, that you do as a human, because we're humans. We're not perfect, but we can know what we are and aren't. I know what I'm not. And it's important to be able to have these moments, notice when something's going on, so we can root it out and make it right. Because if not, there is no point in life. So this was very important for me to be able to see this, to see where the manipulation is and that it is, and why it is. And I can make my own choices. If I want to just let them do whatever they want, I don't see it. It's invisible. It doesn't bother me. No, it does. It does bother me. It doesn't let me be who I want to be, and people interact with me as who I am respectfully and shit like that. And I don't need it. I've moved past it in a lot of other areas. So to be hung up here for some fucking reptile to fucking consume the loosh, I don't fucking think so. All right, that's just my opinion. But it's a fact for me. That's the path, and I can share this. I can say I experienced something I needed to. I don't hold any hard feelings against anything that anybody did because I saw that it wasn't them, and I needed to see that. And you need that, and you need to know who you are, so you're not doing that to other people. That's individuating. You're not fucking putting big government's pressure on someone else like these people during the event. One telling you, you're going to kill my grandmother. Didn't know none of the facts and was just fucking towing the line. We got to know what the line is before we toe the line. You know, you got to know that it's for the right thing. It's important for people to be able to know that. It's important for society and humanity at large. It really is. So don't dismiss it. Whether or not my personal experience makes a shit, you don't have to believe it. I'm telling you, I experienced it and I believe my experience to be accurate. And I just want you to know that's the whole purpose of this, because life is fucking weird. And if you can't do something with it because it's being fucked with, you ought to be able to ask for help. And you will get that help if you ask. If you pray for the angels to come and help you, they'll fucking show up. There is help out there, but you got to ask for it. And you got to seek it, and you got to have some desire to have the best you can be. I'm out. That's longer than normal, so I hope you can appreciate it. Is it going to let me turn it off? Maybe it won't.